Hey guys, welcome to the second episode of the single rail Spitfire transmission overhauling. Last episode we took apart the whole entire transmission and we have parts all over the place. It also has a J-type overdrive that is right here. I took it apart as well and diagnosed it. Turned out there's nothing wrong with the overdrive. The parts here were missing, the relief valve and all the assemblies here that go into these two holes. This hole was closed with the filter inside and the cup, but here even the cups were missing here. So anyway, that's not going to be filmed. I'm not filming the J-type overhauling because I have a series of videos of overhauling a J-type overdrive, so you can watch it here if you want. This series is particularly about the transmission. So we took the transmission apart in the last episode, and now we're gonna inspect our parts here and we're gonna make sure that we have all the parts that we need, or whatever we don't have we can order. So without further ado, let's get crack-a-lacking. Okay, so here most of the internals, and I mean most of the critical internals that we need to inspect. And let's start with the leg gear. We have roller bearings on each side, and that's why I have a dummy shaft inside here to keep the roller bearings in place. They seem to be in good shape, so we're not gonna worry about them. And of course I'm gonna go through the entire leg gear and inspect all the teeth everywhere, but it looks like brand new. I don't see any damage anywhere. So I'm actually gonna put this standing up so I don't worry about the shaft coming out and letting all the bearings go. On both sides of the leg gear we have thrust washers that seem to be in pretty good shape. We also have to inspect the surfaces here on both sides of the shaft of the leg gear, and they are good. But considering these are like $2-3, I think we're gonna buy new thrust washers just in case. Very important also, we're gonna inspect the shaft, because sometimes the bearings go bad and the gear starts grinding on the shaft and it creates swords here, nail catchers, etc, etc. This one is good, we don't need anything there. Next is this bearing. This bearing goes inside the input shaft. It has some spacers on both sides, or cups, or whatever they are, but what matters for us is the external and the internal diameter, and actually goes pretty well. It felt like there was a lot of play in the transmission. Maybe it was too far out. I don't know, feels a little bit, I don't know how to explain it. It's not smooth, it's draining, you know what I mean? It's like as if you're going through a bumpy road. So we're gonna replace this bearing, but the important part is that this surface here is nice and smooth, no problems there. Sometimes it gets worn, and the shaft here is in a good shape. So other than the bearings, I don't think we need to replace anything there. Also the reverse gear, many times the teeth get worn from grinding. This one is in a perfect shape, goes away. Now let's assemble this shaft just so you can see how it goes together, and then we're gonna start taking some measurements. First of all, I'm gonna assemble this hub because it came apart as we were taking the transmission apart. Okay, so how it goes is the 3 springs go in these 3 holes, and then the 3 ball bearings go inside as well. Then we're gonna put the ring on top, and this is the tricky part. We have to make sure that the balls stay in place. Okay, I'm trying to keep it so you can see it. There you go. So this is assembled, and now the bolts just fall into this channel inside these teeth, and they just lock it in center position. That's neutral position. This hub is the same. This is for first, second, and reverse, because sliding one direction is for first, sliding the other direction is for second, and sliding the reverse gear into it, it goes into reverse. So let's assemble the thing just so we know how it goes together. So on this side, we start with this thrust washer, which goes all the way to this teeth here, to this shoulder here. Then we have the bearing, which I'm not gonna push all the way in now, but that's how it goes, and it goes all the way to the thrust washer. Then on the outside of the bearing, we have this washer, and we have a circlip here. But for now, we're not gonna assemble this. Maybe later, for measurements, we might need to do that. Then we have first gear. First gear is the only one that doesn't have a bushing inside. If you look at this one, for example, it has a bushing inside. So that's what goes on the shaft, and the gear turns on the actual bushing, doesn't spin directly on the shaft, right? We have a bushing between the shaft and the gear. This one though, first gear, doesn't have a bushing inside. It goes directly on these splines. So, okay, it goes from the other side. Forgot about that. So we have the first gear, and then the thrust washer, I'm sorry. So here also we have a channel, and this channel is where we have these two half washers, or halves of one washer. They go inside there. So you see, they go into this channel, and then the first gear traps them. So now they can't come out unless the first gear goes in that direction. Then we have a synchro ring. Then we have this hub, which I believe goes in this direction. It's easy to find out in which direction it goes, whether it's this way or this way, by just seeing if the ring is gonna push on the synchro or not. So if we put it this way, now if you look at the synchro ring, nothing is pushing it. I'm pushing hard on the ring, but nothing is pushing the synchro ring towards the first gear. But if we put it the other way around, now you can see if I push the ring down, now I'm pushing it with the gear, with the ring. You see? So this is the direction. Then we have a washer that goes over this bow here, and it has a little groove right here. I don't know if you see it. That needs to go over this bow. It doesn't have a direction, but it has orientation clockwise, and that's for the simple reason so the washer doesn't turn. You see, I couldn't push it in and all the way until I found the groove, and now it went in, and now it won't spin on the shaft. Then we have another synchro ring on the other side of the hub. Next is the second gear, which has this top hat bushing inside, and I put it on the wrong side actually. That's not how it goes. It goes on this side, and then they go together on the shaft. And again, we have to make sure that when the ring is pushed towards the gear, it pushes the synchro ring towards the gear. So that's okay here. Here we have the flange of the top hat, right? So that's where the next gear rides, which is our third gear. And it also has a bushing inside. So we can even put the bushing first just so you can see how it goes. Then the gear in this orientation. So here we can have the synchro ring for the next hub. But before that, we have this washer, like that. And then here is where we have this circlip. I'm not gonna put it now, but it goes over and it clicks into this channel there and locks this whole entire cluster together. After that, we have the next synchro ring and we have the next hub, which again, if we don't put in the right orientation, it's not gonna push on the synchro ring here. Let me see, if we put it this way, there you go. Now you see the synchro ring is free inside there. I'm trying to push it towards the gear, but it doesn't go because this boss here is bottoming up. So now I can put it this way, so with the shorter boss here, and now it pushes on the synchro ring. Then we have another synchro ring, of course, and the bearing and the input shaft, and that's our entire top cluster with the bearing here at the end, of course. So now that we know how everything goes, let's take it apart carefully and put everything in order so we can measure it. The hubs, I don't think we're gonna do anything about them. There's a measurement of what weight you need to put on the ring to make it move out of the bows, but I think just by sensing it with my fingers, I know it's okay, so we're not gonna go that far. We're not gonna measure the hubs. Now we're gonna take third gear out with the bushing inside and the washer. We're gonna take out second gear out with the bushing inside, that's the top hat bushing, and this washer. We're gonna take the hub out, we're gonna put it away, and we're gonna take out our first gear with the washer. So I showed in the previous episode how we measure the synchros to make sure that they are good, but I'm gonna show it again. So when the synchro is compressed towards this taper here, because that's how it creates friction, it's tapered inside and this is tapered, and the harder you push it, the more friction you have, and that friction synchronizes the speed of the actual synchro, which spins together with the shaft, with this gear, and then it helps also align these teeth so the hub can slide over here and lock the gear to the hub and relatively to the shaft. Anyway, so the tolerance here for this gap is 30 thou. So if it is less than 30, this means that this synchro is worn and it goes too far in on the taper, and it won't slow it down or speed it up or whatever. It's not gonna synchronize the gears. So I'm gonna take, in the last episode I took 20 and 21 thou and tested with that, and it was just fine. Yeah, so this is 41 thou together, and I'm perfectly fine sliding it in there. So this synchro is good. Then we're gonna check the one for second gear. Same way, I'm pressing it towards the gear. This might be a little bit tight. So the limit is 30, but for me, if it is less than 40, it's not worth reinstalling it because too close to the tolerance, you know? I don't know. So I'm gonna take the next ones, which is 18 and 19, that's 37. Yeah, even 37 is tight. Okay, so you know what? The synchros are not that expensive. I think we're gonna change them all then. Yeah, this is the 37 combination, too tight. I know 30 is the limit, but you know, if we're so close to the limit, yeah, you see here I have absolutely no problem. Here I can probably put more than 40 thou, but you know what, we're gonna change them all. Since two of them are super tight, we're gonna change them all. I'm gonna put here the parts that we need to replace. Okay, next we're gonna have to make sure that the bushings on each gear are between 2 and 6 thou wider than the actual gear. What I mean by that is, here you know how we have the top hat bushing that goes inside the gear, and we have the other thrust washer on the other side. Now if we take this and we compress them hard, we still should be able to spin the gear, which we do. We are able to spin it. But if this bushing is a little bit too short here, what's gonna happen when we put it in, it's not gonna touch this one, and basically we're gonna put preload, we're gonna compress the gear. If we squeeze the washer towards the bushing here hard, we're gonna basically squeeze the gear in between, and it's not gonna be able to spin. So we need to make sure that the tolerance is between 2 and 6 thou. So for this reason, I'm gonna have to find something to put under this. Okay, I can put this socket here, like this. So that pushes on my washer. And now if I push on this bushing, I can still turn the gear. But let's see what the gap is now between the gear and the flange. So it says between 2 and 6. I'm gonna try with 5. Let's try 5. So this is 5. Doesn't fit there. Now we are on an angle here, but still doesn't fit there. But 3 fits, no problem. Okay, let's try 4. This is 4. 4 is 4 fits actually. So we have 4 here. That's perfect. 4 is between 2 and 6 the last time I checked. So this is good. And now we have to do the same with this one. Here though we're gonna have to do it differently. So I'm gonna put this washer inside, and I'm gonna find a different socket. So this is a socket that fits inside this washer. So we're gonna put it this way now. And now we're gonna see how much this bushing protrudes here. I'm gonna take this broken caliper. Okay, that's 3. 3 is no problem. 4. 4 is no problem. Let's try 5. 5 is just enough. Okay, 5 has a little bit of drag, so this is 5. 5 is between 2 and 6, so we're good with this one as well. And now that we checked the 2 gears separately, we need to check also the overall end float. We're gonna have to put the thrust washers and the bushings, but no gears, and measure the end float of the whole thing. Okay, so here we have this thrust washer, like we said, with the thing, with the slot for the bow there. Then we're gonna take only the bushing out here, without the gear, and we're gonna put it. So this is where the gear fits, right? And we already made sure that we have enough room here for the gear to spin without any drag. Then the next bushing from this gear and this washer. And now we have to put here this circlip that keeps them together, all of that, and then we're gonna see anywhere in between the bushings and the thrust washers the tolerance. The tolerance here needs to be between 4 and 10 thou. We need to have a little bit of end play between all of them. But I don't want to click this washer there because it's going to be hard to take it out, even though it's distorted already. So I'm just going to cut it in two. We're going to make it like this, so it goes from both sides, and then it's easy to remove, and it's going to be discarded, or I'm actually going to keep it as a tool for future reference, like this. So now I can put it in, and of course we're going to have to slide it into its slot. There you go. I'm sure 1/2 is enough, but we can put the other one as well, just in case. There you go. Okay, and now we can't take it apart anymore, so now let's measure where. It doesn't really matter where, as long as we have between 4 and 10 thou. Yeah, we have 5. 5 goes in with a drag, so 4 feels much better. Okay, so 4 is between 4 and 10, so that's good as well. So now we can take this apart again, which still is gonna be fun. And now we can put these back together how they were, so we don't mess them up. So this is for third gear. This goes like that. This is for our second gear, and these are checked. Overall and float is checked. So the last thing to check is first gear, and this is fun because we need to put the bearing in if we want to check that. So again, we're gonna start with first gear here, and we're gonna put the 2 half washers in this channel like that, and we're gonna lock them. Then we have this thrust washer, then the bearing, which I'm gonna tap in. Okay, that works. That's from TR6 transmission. Now I can hammer here, I guess. Okay. Now we can take this away so we don't confuse it with our gears. Now in between here we have the spacer washer, right? That we put before the bearing. Here we have the other washer and the circlip. And here the end float needs to be between 0 and 2. Wow, I was able to put this with my finger. Almost. There you go. It's inside. So here we need to have end float between 0 and 2 thou. And now, having in mind that we just hammered the bearing all the way in, our end float should be between, if any, should be between this washer and the racer of the bearing. So let's see. I have the feeling it's very tight, which is good. We said between 0 and 2. How is 0 okay? I don't know, but hey, don't ask me. I just work here. So that's 1. Can we slide it in? Yes. Okay. 1 goes in. So that's 2. No. Yeah. Actually, 2 thou goes in with a pretty good drag. I think we are perfectly fine here. So if the end play here is way too big, then we can find a different size spacer washer in the middle. Here, the same. If we don't have enough end flow, we have to buy a new bushing. This means that it is worn here. If we have too big end play, then we can reduce the size here. We can drag it on a little bit of sandpaper. but we have the perfect tolerances here, so we don't need to do anything. This bushing the same. If we don't have enough end play, then we need to buy a new bushing. If we have too much, then we need to reduce the size, and that's all. So now we know what we need to buy for this transmission. We're gonna buy a gasket set, we're gonna buy 4 synchro rings, we're gonna buy these two thrust washers, and we're gonna buy a bearing, and that's all. And of course we need to buy a new circlip because we distorted this one, and I recommend don't ever reuse this because it creates lots of troubles. Ask me how I know. I just fixed the transmission that this circlip was broken, and it was expensive experience for the owner just because this broke. So always buy a new one. So that's all, guys. That's what mostly you have to inspect. Of course, you have to, that's something that I didn't mention, was you have to inspect all the teeth here, if the gears are not broken, or if there are broken teeth here on the gears and stuff like that. But as tolerances, this is what you need to check. Once you check that, you can order your parts, and in the next episode I'm gonna show you how I assemble it. So stay tuned for that. That's everything for today. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.